Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. We are on day 3 of the challenge. I am so curious to hear how it's going for many of you. Um, I've heard from a few of you over email. I know one of the Brave Energy mantras that was emailed to me yesterday. Good morning, Cassie. Um, she emailed it to me, and I think she might share it here later. So I won't steal her thunder because she wrote something really awesome that I encouraged her to share with you all. So Cassie, I hope the challenge is going well for you, and maybe you're even sharing some information with your coworkers. Hope you guys are doing well. So you get the gym version of me today, which is appropriate because I have our favorite 80s hack here, hair hack. Or did we wear these in the 90s? I can't remember. You guys will have to set me straight to when we actually wore scrunchies. So I probably had a drawer full of like 20 of these, and you guys, they're like making a comeback. So I was like, I need a scrunchie for this. And I went down into my daughter's room and I pulled open her bathroom drawer, and she had like 10 scrunchies in there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, everything that's old is new again. Good morning, Jill. I hope the challenge is going well for you. Cassie and Jill, if you guys have your Brave Energy mantras, I'd love for you to share them. Or if you've just done something that's stretched your comfort zone this week, just let me know, type yes, or just clue me in on how things are going. I'm super curious onto how things are going for you guys. So anyways, today we're going to talk a lot about saying no and setting boundaries, because one of the things that I think keeps us from actually moving forward is we forget to say no to the things that are no longer serving us. Good morning, Jill. And guys, I am so excited to talk about this because this is the thing that I sucked at the longest for most of my life. And I'll tell you why here in just a minute. So I want to use the scrunchie as a analogy here, or as a metaphor for what we're going to be doing. So as you guys know, because y'all are children of the 80s and 90s, when you stretch out a scrunchie, right, it feels like tension. And like, it's actually taking a lot of effort for me to hold the scrunchie apart right now. Well, I think that this is a really good metaphor for how it feels when you guys are stepping out and doing something really brave, or, really taking a step forward into the unknown. Because lots of times ambiguity, guys, it just feels so scary. And so, all this tension just sits here because it's like, oh my gosh, am I making the right decision? This feels weird. I started a new job and I have no idea what the heck I'm doing, which is what I talk to a lot of women about. And so there's two ways that you can release some of this tension. You can, if this right here is my new goal, and this right here is my past, or all the ways I have been doing things, I can either like release tension by saying, never mind, I don't really feel like doing this. Stepping out into the unknown just doesn't feel good. This is weird. My ego's screaming at you. So, you can release the tension and play small again by doing it that way. Or you can release tension by slowly giving up some old habits that are no longer serving you, and saying no to some things and setting boundaries by saying, you know what, this worked for me at a time. Good morning, Diane. This works for me at a time, but it just doesn't work for me anymore. And when you say no to some of the things that are no longer working for you, you release tension. And that gives you more bandwidth to take another leap forward. And you say no to some things. And then you take another leap forward and you say no to some things. And I love this metaphor because it's going to be really hard for us to keep moving forward if we've got the past that's constantly weighing us down. As many of you have heard in the news, Toni Morrison passed away on the 5th. Brilliant writer, novelist, wrote Beloved, won the Pulitzer and Nobel Prize. She's quoted as saying, you and a fly, you got to give up the crap that's weighing you down. And that's what today is all about, is how to give up the junk that's weighing you down, and you don't need to feel so guilty about it. So old habits won't serve new goals. So what does this feel like? Let me just give you an example. So when I was first starting out, I had someone reach out to me, first starting out, meaning when I was still kind of early on in my business. This was a few months ago. I had someone reach out to me and say, hey, can you travel and come do a full day workshop at my company? Ironically, you guys, on setting boundaries. I had written an article and she liked it. She's like, come teach my people this. So of course, guys, my first instinct is to say like, yes, absolutely. That sounds great. I'm super excited to talk about it. And that's the email that I sent off to her. And guys, as soon as that email left my inbox saying, yes, absolutely, let's get on the phone, let's talk, I felt, now this is where I feel it, I felt what I call my ring of fire sensation. And for me, it sits like right under my rib cage, and it feels like there's just like a little fireball that's kind of going back and forth. It just feels like almost kind of sick and heavy and sharp. And that's how I knew I had said yes to something that was out of my integrity. I had said yes to something that wasn't right for me. Now, you guys might know this feeling, and I can actually kind of have you replicate this feeling, and it's going to be in your handout today. Just think of a time, guys, when you were doing maybe a work project that you didn't like. Perhaps it was something that you said yes to, and even though your gut was telling you no, you said yes to it. Maybe it was a client that you took on. Maybe it was a program that you joined. And even though your gut was saying no, you went in and did it anyways. And every time you had to, go to this thing or have a meeting for it, you just were like, ugh. And not only did you say no to something, or say yes to something you didn't want to, you were with people that just weren't your people. Maybe the time of day wasn't even that good. Maybe your health wasn't even that good. And just kind of sit with that feeling for a second and just kind of notice how your body responds to that and where you carry it. Do your shoulders, some people tell me their jaw gets really tight. Some people tell me their shoulders get really heavy, or they get sick to their stomach, or their hands clench. Guys, it's probably the opposite of your brave energy feeling. Like, this is what I profoundly call my hard no. I've learned to kind of just get in tune with my body enough. And if you guys want to just get a refresher on this whole body, listening to your body, the 11 million bits per second, watch the video from yesterday. But this is a great way to get in tune with your body when your body is just telling you, Cassie, no way. Jill, no way. Diane, no way. Kelly, no way. This is not for you. You're saying yes to something that you're going to resent later. So why do we say yes when we want to say no? In my years of working with leaders and coaching women directly, and even men too, I found that there's kind of 4 types or 4 reasons why we tend to say yes when we really just deep in our being want to say no. The first one is, these are for all the high achievers out there, and you might be combinations of all of these, just so you know. It's, if I say no, people will think I'm not capable. If I say no, people will think I'm not a high achiever. The other one, the number 2, this was my big thing, and it's still what I have to work on, is if I say no, I'm going to disappoint someone. Or if I say no, people will think that I don't like them. Or maybe they won't like me, or I won't make them happy. Oh, people pleasing, that's definitely mine. Number 3, if I say no, people will think I don't support them. Or if I say no, people will think I'm not helpful. And then the last one is kind of a perfectionism, risk-averse tendency. People will say, well, I can't show up and say yes until I have everything perfect. Or I will continue to say yes to things because I believe that makes me look perfect. The risk averse is I won't say yes until I know everything can be risk free, or I'll say yes a lot, but I won't share until I know that everything is risk free. So I'd be curious. Drop in the comments, whether you're watching now live, ladies, or you're watching on replay, which one resonates with you? Are you the achiever type, the people pleaser type, the supporter type, or the perfectionist type? For me, it's always been people pleasing. So if I go back to my example of when my prospective client asked me to come out, as soon as that email left my fingers, I was like, oh, I said yes because I was afraid in that moment, if I told her no, that she would be disappointed in me. Maybe she would think I'm not capable. So when we had our call, I actually went back to her and I just set like a healthy boundary. I said, you know what? Her name was Jamie. I said, you know what, Jamie? I said in my email, I was really excited about it, but one of the reasons why I left corporate America was because I was traveling constantly. And when I moved to my new business, one of my commitments was that I was going to spend more time at home. And so by saying yes to your request to travel, I'm just getting back into my old habits. There it is again. I'm getting back into my old habits where I can't take a leap forward if I'm still in the mindset of trying to people please and doing things my own way. So I want to share with you today a boundary setting framework that I've kind of developed over time. And it really came from the thought or the fact that I used to say yes to everything because I was a people pleaser. And so when I said yes to everything, I couldn't really deliver a whole lot because I was overwhelmed. And so I really had to do some of the work that I shared with you guys on day one. I had to really like question my thoughts. Like, is it true that if I say no, people will be disappointed in me? Well, no, that's not true. In fact, the opposite could be true. If I say yes too much, people will be disappointed in me. Why? Because I'm saying yes to everything. So I'm not delivering high quality work. Like that was also just as true. And that's how I knew the ego was playing me on both sides. So because I was saying yes to everything, I had a tendency to just all of a sudden turn around and say no to everything. Well, that made me look like I was hard to work with. And it made me look like my teams were hard to work with. So the boundary setting framework that I came up with, and you guys are going to have this in your handout, is just really, good morning, Laura, is just step one, share what you're happy to do. So for instance, in the example that I used in the beginning of me talking with Jamie, this client, I shared what I was happy to do. Jamie, I am more than happy to work with your team. I am thrilled you reached out to me. And that's the honest truth because I was happy she reached out to me. The second step is share what you're committing to or share what your values are. So, I just shared with her, I said, one of the things that I'm committing to is spending more time at home with my family. So then step 3 was telling her what I can't accommodate. So because I'm committed to spending more time at home with my family, unfortunately, a full day trip out to your location is not going to work for my schedule. But then instead of just stopping there, I turned the whole thing into like a collaborative statement of how we can continue to work together. And so I said, given that an on-site trip is not going to work, tell me how you think perhaps a 90-minute interactive webinar would work for your team. And she's like, oh my gosh, that sounds great. We actually have an offsite, and I think that would be perfect if we did a 90-minute webinar over lunch. And I was like, great. Which, guys, was so awesome because, here I was, my ego was telling me, like, if you tell her no, she's going to be disappointed and she's never going to work with you again. And guys, that was so far from the truth. And not only did I express my honesty and my integrity, because, guys, honesty is just a lot of kindness and a yes or a no. Like, I can be honest about what I want. And when I'm honest about what I want, I don't have to pretend. I don't have to show up like holding in or hiding my resentment and then pretending that I'm okay with what I just agreed with. So, it just allows me to, operate in my integrity and find collaborative solutions on how we can make it work. And we did a 90-minute webinar for her team. Everybody loved it. And now they're pursuing of how they can kind of work it into some of their onboarding or their training programs. So my challenge to you guys this week is to take a look at your to-do list, take a look at your habits, and make a list of maybe some things that you have coming up on your plate in the next month, okay? Think about personal commitments you've made, clubs or organizations that you're a part of, recurring meetings or projects or committees that you've said yes to. And I really want you to go through those things, and I really want you to check in with your body on how you respond. Do you get that light, fizzy, excited, brave energy that we talked about yesterday? Or do you get kind of like that tight, clenched, heavy, dread feeling? And if you get the dread feeling, your challenge is to say no to something. So going back to my scrunchie example, what on your to-do list can you say no to so that you can take a brave next step forward? Good morning, Marcy. That's your challenge. Use your boundary setting framework to be able to have that conversation gracefully. Tell them what you're happy to do, share what you commit to, let them know what you won't accommodate, and then turn the whole thing into a question statement. Give you one more example. So when I was leading training teams, people would often come to me on a Thursday and say, hey, can you train my team in a morning workshop on Tuesday? And so I would just have to set the boundary, because in the past I'd say, oh, of course. And then my whole team would be scrambling, overwhelmed, trying to pull something together, and it was chaos. So I would just, one, thank them. Oh my gosh, I'd be happy to work with your team, which was the truth. I'm happy to do a workshop for you. And then I would share what I would commit to. We're committed to make sure that this is a high energy and high quality experience. I would tell them what I can accommodate. So I'd say, you know what, this typically takes about 2 weeks to prepare if we want to do it correctly. Basically saying, you know, yes, we can't turn this around in 3 days. And then I would just turn the whole thing into a question and just say, so how does 2 weeks from Thursday look for your team? Will that work? And people were usually more than happy to accommodate, because we're all working towards the same goal. We all want something that's, you know, high quality, high energy. So that's your challenge today. Look at your to-do list. Look at the stuff that you've committed to. Notice how your body responds. Have the courage today to set a boundary or say no to something so that you can actually take a step forward in the direction and in the energy that you want to go. So I have a question that came in earlier, and I want to address it, but I want to see if you guys that are live online have any questions. So Marcy, Laura, Diane, Jill, Cassie, how's your brave energy statement going? Have you taken any brave next steps? Have you made any courageous asks? Tell me. I know it can feel a little scary. While you guys are thinking about what you might try, I want to read a question that I got. It's very simple. And that is, how can I show up and be seen? And guys, that's a question I get from a lot of women, no matter if they're a senior leader or they're, you know, a high achieving individual contributor. And I really want you guys to think about, what does show up and be seen really mean for you? Does that mean that you get recognition? Does that mean that you're leading a meeting? Does that mean that you're getting some sort of reward? Like, what does that really mean for you? I would ask you to think about, if you were in the moment where you were being seen, how would that make you feel? Like, that's your brave energy feeling. And so then ask yourself, like, how can I infuse that feeling into everything that I do? And then perhaps I don't have to feel so attached to somebody seeing me. The other thing, and I think that this is kind of a perfect metaphor for what we're talking about in the challenge, is the second thing you can look at is the energy that you're giving, is it withholding energy? Like, meaning, are you keeping it in, or are you doing more of an outreach energy? So I know in challenges like this, because I've been part of them, okay? I mean, I'm doing one for you guys, but I've participated in other people's challenges. Here's some of the things that went through my mind. I can't share a brave energy statement because I don't know if it's perfect. What will people think? People might think that this is stupid. I don't really want to share what I'm working on or my brave next step because I haven't perfected it yet. Or, you know, what if other people judge it? Or quite frankly, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I don't even know what my brave next step is. I'm just here because I think this person is motivating, and I'm just not going to comment, you know, until I have something all figured out. And guys, lots of times those are the things, those are the thoughts, that's the inner critic that goes through our head, not just for stuff like this, but like in our everyday work. So I would challenge you to say, gosh, how can, instead of playing small and me not speaking up or contributing until I think it's perfect or eloquent or whatever that might be, you know, how can I contribute things that I do know, even if it's just like, I'm not sure yet, I'm still working on it, here's something I'm thinking about, here's something that's meaningful to me, you know what, I appreciate other people's energy. Like, that's an outreaching energy. And so I want this to be like the safe place where you guys can just practice sharing what you're thinking about, sharing, you know, some of the things that are going on in your head, something that's meaningful to you, an aha that you learned. That sort of energy, just putting yourself out there, is the little habits that you can build. And the more that you start putting out your energy, the more that others will respond to you. There's no chance of being seen or being responded to if we just keep all of our thoughts and all of our energy. So go back to day one. Don't let the inner critic get to you about all of these thoughts of, you know, if I share, people will think this looks stupid. Do the 4 questions on it from day one in your handout. Is it true? How do you act when you believe that thought is true? What would you do if you could no longer believe that thought? Just go through some of that work. So hopefully that kind of helps answer that question of showing up and being seen. Sometimes we just have to put ourselves out there in little ways, even if it's in safe groups like this, because it gives us the practice, and that's the whole point. It gives us the practice here in small ways before we can put ourselves out there in big ways. One of the things I teach a lot of my leaders is that they always say, well, I can't delegate because people make too many mistakes. Well, delegate when the stakes are low so that they get lots of practice, so they have confidence when the stakes are high. So my challenge with you guys as this group is share your ahas, share what you're thinking about, share some positive energy that made sense to you, share a brave step you're thinking about, because when you guys can practice putting yourself out there and being seen in a group like this where we have love and support and the stakes are low, it makes it a lot easier because you develop that confidence. You act your way into new ways of thinking, and it builds confidence for when the stakes are high. So guys, that's all I have for you today. Of course, you'll always get an email with a summary of the challenge. Contribute, that way you guys can work towards that $50 gift card that'll help support your goals. And I'm super excited to hear what you guys are thinking about. I'll hang for a minute. If you guys have any questions, you can pop them in the comments. Or if you're watching this on replay, you can pump them in the comments too, and I will answer, or just share an aha, something you're thinking about. That counts too when it comes towards the gift card. So happy Wednesday, everybody. Thanks for joining me live, and I'll be back on here to check on you again soon. Bye.